And away we go, episode 1201 of the Galdi podcast. It is Tuesday, November 18th, 2025, a day after more bad news in this oh-so-bad Washington Commanders season. Their game against the Denver Broncos at Northwest Stadium on Sunday Night Football on November 30th at 8:20 was not flexed at a prime time. We thought that game had a good chance of being flexed to being a Sunday afternoon game. Instead, the game remains a Sunday nighter. We learned that on Monday. And so we as Commanders fans will be subjected to a fifth primetime game for our team in the NFL's 2025 regular season, in which our team is 3-8, including 0-4 in primetime. I tell you, I cannot wait until we get a bunch of 1 p.m. games for the Commanders' next regular season. I am so over these primetime games this season. I'm guessing that many of you are too. Hello and welcome to this Tuesday installment of the Galdi podcast. The Commanders' bye week in this regular season has begun, but the bye week has started with some news. The Commanders on Monday afternoon announced having released kicker Matt Gay. Gay has gone by. Pause. Next segment, reaction to the latest change for the Commanders at kicker. In less than 24 months, has any NFL team had less stability at kicker than our team since the start of the 2024 offseason? The following segment, discussion of the state of the Commanders season and of the defense in the 16-13 overtime loss to the Miami Dolphins in Madrid, Spain on Sunday, showing improvement as we on Monday afternoon had the day after the game press conference of head coach Dan Quinn. Also on the show, we'll talk Washington Nationals and Washington Capitals. The Nats, they on Monday afternoon held the introductory press conference for manager Blake Butera. He came off well. I have a lot of conversation for you about him and the Nats off what he said. The Caps, they on Monday night got a nice win, a 2-1 win over the Los Angeles Kings at Capital One Arena as top-line left wing Alex Ovechkin scored an even-strength goal for his 442nd regular season goal at Capital One Arena, surpassing Gordie Howe for the most regular season goals at a single venue in NHL history. Also, terrific work by the Caps' number 2 goaltender, the outlaw, Charlie Lindgren. He stopped 30 of the 31 shots on goal that he faced as he outdueled Kings goaltender and former Caps goaltender Darcy Kemper. He stopped 23 of the 25 shots on goal that he faced. Before we get to some feedback, it is official. Virginia Tech has hired James Franklin as its head football coach. Tech made the announcement on Monday evening, introductory press conference on Wednesday morning at 10. This is a great hire for the Hokies. If you are a Hokies fan, you should be thrilled by this hire. James Franklin, very good tenures as Penn State head coach and Vanderbilt head coach, has been a great recruiter of the Mid-Atlantic region going back to his time as an assistant at Maryland. And it's funny how things work out. Tech on September 14th announced having fired head coach Brent Pry and having named offensive coordinator Philip Montgomery as interim head coach. Brent Pry came to Tech off 8 seasons, 2014 through 2021, as defensive coordinator and linebackers coach at Penn State under James Franklin. Pry was co-defensive coordinator and linebackers coach for the 2014 and 2015 seasons and was the solo defensive coordinator and linebackers coach for the rest of his time at Penn State. And now the Hokies have hired James Franklin, who was fired by Penn State on October 12th. Here was ESPN college football insider Pete Thamel on ESPN's SportsCenter on Monday evening. And then you hear a follow-up exchange with anchor Jay Harris.
It's a significant hire for Virginia Tech, which has not been at the top of college football since Frank Beamer retired back in 2015. Virginia Tech, after firing Brent Pry after that 0-3 start, as a university really fortified itself and said, we need to be financially competitive in modern college football. The Board of Visitors passed legislation essentially that said $229 million was going to be infused into that athletic department over the next 4 years. That made Virginia Tech an exponentially more attractive job for the future. And James Franklin is a coach who has aspirations to win a national title. Under Frank Beamer, Virginia Tech was a consistent contender and in that conversation in the highest levels of college football. Virginia Tech wants to get back there, and they have an experienced coach with 128 career wins to get them there.
Pete, what are some of Franklin's attributes that Virginia Tech is hoping that he brings to the program?
Well, I think the first one is a program builder. He's expected to prompt a flurry of commitments here soon after Virginia Tech makes this hire formalized. James Franklin is a builder, and he's been a winner. He won nearly 70% of his games at Penn State. He has consistently won wherever he's gone, and Virginia Tech is counting on him establishing that and reestablishing Virginia Tech in the top of the ACC pecking order.
Yeah, James Franklin actually is one of the most credentialed head coaching hires in ACC history. Big fan of this hire for Virginia Tech. There's also this from Pete Thamel. James Franklin originally was owed a $49 million buyout after being fired by Penn State, but part of his deal with the Hokies includes a $9 million settlement with Penn State. So him getting hired by Virginia Tech, a win for Penn State. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Feedback on Operation Loseout 2.0, which I launched on Monday's show, episode 1200. Operation Loseout consists of rooting for Commanders players, especially young Commanders players, to play well, but for the team to lose, so as to maximize positioning in the 2026 NFL Draft, in which our team is tracking toward having a top 10, maybe even top 5 pick. This is a lost season. The Commanders getting to at least 10 wins in this regular season, seemingly a must for making the playoffs, is no longer possible. And yet the team has 6 games left in this regular season. I hate what the season has become, but there's no denying what the season has become. And so let's embrace it, put it to work for us, and have it do some good. From Russell Fugit on X, writes Russell, Operation Loseout, engaged. Thank you for that, Russell. From District Sports Talk on X, writes District Sports Talk, Operation Loseout, commence. Thank you for that, District Sports Talk. From Tony on X, writes Tony, Operation Loseout is in full effect for me. Thank you for that, Tony. From Darren Painter on X, writes Darren, Operation Loseout has officially begun. Thank you for that, Darren. Email from Rick Proctor, writes Rick, Al, I'm all in for Operation Loseout. Let's go. Let's roll. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th pick. Trade down for an additional 2 to 5 picks by trading down multiple times in the draft. As Scott McLuhan would often say, we need football players. Man, oh man, do we need football players. Let's start up your Loseout bandwagon. Plenty of room available on that bandwagon. Thank you for that email, Rick. Email from Corey Schreiner, writes Corey, attention, Washington, this is LOSCOM, a.k.a. Loser Command. You may commence with Operation Loseout, fire at will. Thanks for following DMV Sports so that we don't have to. On to the draft. Thank you for the email, Corey. Email from Dennis Kemp in Laurel, Maryland. Writes Dennis, Al, in honor of the Commanders, Nationals, and of course the Wizards, please play Ron's growth and development soundbite. Definitely time for the Commanders to focus on 2026. Love the show. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much for that, Dennis. And here you go.
Growth and development.
Yes, sir. As Ron Rivera said many times during his final season as Washington head coach, the 2023 season during which we conducted Operation Loseout 1.0, growth and development. Feedback on the stunning news from Sunday afternoon. Maryland Director of Athletics Jim Smith announcing that he is retaining Mike Locksley as head football coach for the 2026 season. And said Smith in a letter to Terrapins fans, quote, Coach Locksley bleeds Maryland, has deep and unmatched ties to the DMV, and he has led this program to success unprecedented in our 133-year football history, including 3 consecutive bowl victories with 3 straight winning seasons from 2021 through 23, end quote. That phrase, success unprecedented, stuck out to me. And also to Robert Delaney. Email from Robert. Writes Robert, Al, I'm just in shock. Success unprecedented. Jim Tatum, Jerry Claiborne, Bobby Ross, and Ralph Regan. Does Jim Smith know anything? Is the truth that the Terps couldn't afford the buyout? Bob Chesney is staring the Terps right in the face. Thank you for the email, Robert. Email from Michael King. Writes Mike, unbelievable, but so typically Maryland. Thank you for the email, Mike. So regarding Jim Smith saying that Mike Locksley has led Maryland to, quote, success unprecedented, end quote, I wanted to research that before sounding off on that because, yeah, on the surface, saying that when Maryland has had the likes of Jim Tatum and Jerry Claiborne and Bobby Ross and Ralph Regan as head coaches seems like an insult. But Jim Smith technically was correct. Maryland over the 2021 through 2023 seasons won a bowl game in each season. That is the only time in program history that the Terps have won a bowl game in each of at least 3 consecutive seasons. So that, I believe, was what Jim Smith was referring to when he said that Mike Locksley has led Maryland to, quote, success unprecedented, end quote. Now, is that phrase, success unprecedented, a bit misleading? Yeah. Ralph Regan made a bowl game in each of his first 3 seasons as Maryland head coach, 2001 through 2003. Now, he went 2-1 in those bowl games, but the one loss was a loss in a BCS bowl, a 56-23 loss to Florida in the Orange Bowl on January 2nd, 2002, and what was Steve Spurrier's final game as Florida head coach before becoming the Redskins head coach. But Friedgen, in his first season as Maryland head coach, shockingly made a BCS bowl. Yeah, he lost the game, but that to me is more in the spirit of, quote, success unprecedented, end quote. The 3 bowl game wins for Mike Locksley over the 2021 through 2023 seasons, a 54-10 blowout of Virginia Tech in the Pinstripe Bowl at Yankee Stadium in New York City on December 29th, 2021, a 16-12 win over NC State in the Duke's Mayo Bowl at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina on December 30th, 2022, and a 31-13 win over Auburn in the Music City Bowl at Nissan Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee on December 30th, 2023. All of those wins were nice, but what the Fridge did in taking Maryland to a BCS Bowl in his first season as Maryland head coach was truly special. That was an unforgettable season for Maryland football, that 2001 season. Now, I do think that Jim Smith keeping Mike Locksley is largely about the buyout, $13.4 million. Jim Smith either had no interest in paying the buyout for Mike Locksley or had no ability to pay out the buyout for Mike Locksley. In other words, couldn't cobble together the money from donors to pay the $13.4 million. And that's disappointing because that's not some sky-high buyout. That per USA Today ranks as the 3rd cheapest head coaching contract buyout in the Big Ten. Smith is promising to significantly increase financial support for the football program. Okay, but I don't know how much of Maryland's struggles over the last 2 seasons are about talent. Maryland has talent. Locksley can recruit. The Terps defense this season has plenty of talented guys, although the defense has gotten banged up big time. Hey, please consider subscribing to this podcast if you're not already doing that. Subscribing to the podcast costs nothing. Make sure that you never miss an episode and helps out the podcast a lot. And if you're already subscribing, thank you. What a last 21 months for the Washington Commanders at kicker. The team in January 2024 hired Adam Peters as general manager. The team in February 2024 hired Dan Quinn as head coach. And the team at no point during this Adam Peters-Dan Quinn era has had stability at kicker. There have been multiple reasons for this, an alleged off-the-field incident, injury, poor performance, but whatever the case, the Commanders at no point during this Adam Peters-Dan Quinn era have had stability at kicker. Kickers acquired by the Commanders since the start of the NFL's 2024-2025 league year on March 12th, 2024. You ready for this? Brandon McManus, Ramiz Ahmed, Riley Patterson, Cade York, Austin Seibert, Zane Gonzalez, Matt Gay, and Matthew Wright. 8 kickers have been acquired by the Commanders since the start of the NFL's 2024-2025 league year on March 12th, 2024, and soon that number will be 9 because the Commanders on Monday afternoon announced having released Matt Gay. He absolutely goes down as a whiff by Adam Peters, and we on Monday evening had reports that the Commanders are signing kicker Jake Moody off the Chicago Bears practice squad. Matt Gay and the Commanders' 16-13 overtime loss to the Miami Dolphins in Madrid, Spain on Sunday went just 2 for 4 on field goals. He connected on a 26-yard field goal with 2:36 left in the first quarter and connected on a 30-yard field goal as time expired in the second quarter, but he missed 2 50-plus yard field goal attempts. He was wide right on a 51-yard field goal attempt in the second quarter, and he was wide right on a 56-yard field goal attempt in the final minute of the fourth quarter with the game tied at 13. He, for the NFL's 2025 regular season, fell to being just 13 for 19 on field goals, including just 4 for 9 on field goal attempts of at least 50 yards. Gay on Sunday did go 1 for 1 on extra points to improve to 22 for 22 on extra points in this regular season. But enough was enough with him being unreliable on field goal attempts of at least 50 yards in an NFL in which 50 is the new 40 for kickers, and heck, even 60 is becoming routine. And so the Commanders on Monday afternoon announced having released Matt Gay. Made the announcement minutes before the start of Dan Quinn's day after the game press conference. During that presser, had this exchange between Commanders insider Tom Schad of the Washington Post and Quinn.
Dan, could you walk us through the decision to cut Matt Gay and what your plans are moving forward with that spot?
Sure. So, Adam and I visited with Matt today. Matt has been a fantastic teammate here, Tom, and like an all-time good dude. So, we're really bummed that it didn't work out. We just felt, hey, this is the change that we needed, and just kind of make all decisions. Hey, this is what we think at this time is the best decisions for the team when they're hard, like this one, because of who the person is. It makes it especially difficult, but you still have to make the decisions you think are best for the whole team.
So the Commanders this past April 29th announced having signed Matt Gay as an unrestricted free agent. The contract reportedly was a one-year deal with more than $4.25 million fully guaranteed, the most fully guaranteed money for a kicker in a one-year contract in NFL history. Adam Peters gave Matt Gay historical money as one-year contracts for kickers in the NFL go, and Gay ended up being released before Thanksgiving. Like I said, this is a whiff by Adam Peters, who on Monday afternoon had this exchange between Commanders insider John Keim of ESPN and Dan Quinn.
Yeah, more with Matt. Why the final decision to release him? Was it just, obviously he missed the kicks yesterday. Was it the fact that he struggled to beyond 50? What was the rationale?
Yeah, just honestly, John, we're just not making those kicks, not just the ones yesterday. We're just want to look at the big picture of things and make sure we can just make the decisions that are best for the team. It was a hard one for sure, but, like at that position, the performance, we've got to have it. And, so we're really bummed. We wanted this to work out long-term with Matt, and but that was a decision that we felt was best, but it wasn't from one game for sure.
And the irony of Matt Gay's final game with the Commanders, this loss to the Dolphins, is that it ended via a walk-off 29-yard field goal by Dolphins kicker and former Commanders kicker Riley Patterson. It now has been more than 4 years since Washington released kicker Dustin Hopkins, our guy D-Hop. Washington on October 20th, 2021, stunningly released Dustin Hopkins. And not that the team made some massive mistake in releasing Hopkins. Hopkins was a mediocre kicker for Washington, but he was the team's kicker for a while. The Redskins initially signed Hopkins in September 2015, so he was the team's kicker from September 2015 to October 2021. And the team over these last 4+ years has yet to have true stability at kicker. Hopkins was not great, but there with him was a stability at kicker that Washington has not come close to having since it had him. Hey, if you are a Commanders fan, check out bgobsession.com, an outstanding site for Commanders conversation. The Sons of Washington forum on bgobsession.com is terrific. BG Obsession, or BGO, has been going strong since 2009. No politics, just friendly and passionate discussion about the Commanders and more. Great contests, game day chats, and camaraderie. Both old school and new school fans are welcome. Visit and join BGO at bgobsession.com. bgobsession.com, home to your burgundy and gold obsession. More now on the Washington Commanders off their 16-13 overtime loss to the Miami Dolphins in Madrid, Spain on Sunday, and off head coach Dan Quinn's day after the game press conference on Monday afternoon. So the Commanders have arrived at their Week 12 bye week in the NFL's 2025 regular season. They are 3-8 with a point differential of -60, third worst record in the NFC, third worst point differential in the NFC. They have lost 6 consecutive games, longest current losing streak in the NFL. The season has been a disaster disaster for all of the reasons that we have discussed a bunch, starting with injuries. The team has been ravaged by injuries, but there are plenty of other reasons for the season going so terribly wrong. The Commanders have the bye and then have their final 6 games of this regular season, and while the team has not officially been eliminated from playoff contention, the team's realistic playoff hopes are gone, right? Dan Quinn on Monday afternoon did not provide any updates on injured players. He said that he'll do that during his press conference this coming Monday, November 24th. That'll be the next press conference for Quinn. But Quinn on Monday afternoon did talk a good bit about the state of the team season. We on Monday afternoon had this back and forth between Donna Hopkins of Pro Football Plus and Dan Quinn.
Hey, Coach. In the break that the players are on right now with this bye week, what was the key message to the players, to get away for this time and then them coming back?
Yeah, the times that we spend together as players and coaches, it's really intense, like the spaces, the meetings, the practice, the way we play and live together. So I wanted that space to, replenish that. We're all a little depleted, but I really wanted more than anything, like we're going to come back. We're not going to talk about in 6 weeks or in that. Like we're just going to work as hard as we can to get better and enjoy doing that, having fun and kicking ass. I felt a good energy about our team yesterday. Donna was having a lead for the first time and what felt like maybe forever brought some of that. But I wanted them to know this is all there for us to go do, capable plays, complimentary football, and we're going to work really hard at it. And there's going to be a lot that we can battle through together. And so I want us to, look forward to that. And so this team's connected. They play tough. They fight for one another. And let's do all those things to get the wins and all the things we have to do. I reminded them you can't do that with penalties. You can't do that with, a negative turnover margin. So I was clear about how to win, but I thought heading into the game, the mindset was correct. And I want to make sure we stay in that space.
And you mentioned about rough spots. What has been in these last 6 weeks, beyond not getting the win, some of the things that are most disappointed about just this whole process of trying to get back on the right page? Yeah,
I think as a coach, I worry about everybody. So not getting a chance to get that one yesterday, I so badly wanted the win for the players. Sometimes you need that one to get the momentum to kick you over the top. And so that's what I was just really disappointed as much as I've been for them. It's in the grasp, you have the lead, and so not to get the win in that spot, that was probably the hardest one.
We'll see if key players like quarterback Jaden Daniels and receivers Terry McLaurin and Noah Brown actually play again this season. But where exactly is another Commanders win in this regular season coming from? The remaining 6 games, home to the Denver Broncos, at the Minnesota Vikings, at the New York Giants, home to the Philadelphia Eagles, home to the Dallas Cowboys, at the Philadelphia Eagles. It is entirely possible that the Commanders will be the underdog for each of those 6 games. We on this podcast are having scheduled fun with Operation Lose Out 2.0. The team losing out is a realistic possibility, especially if the team continues to be walloped by injury. We on Monday afternoon had this back and forth between 7 News DC sports director Scott Abraham and Dan Quinn.
Hey, Dan, what's the challenge of keeping the spirits up, keeping the energy high where kind of the record is right now?
I think everybody deals with it differently, Scott, but just knowing that I use the phrase "what's next" for a reason, because it's literally the only thing we have some influence over. So as emotionally pissed or disappointed or just outraged about how that's gone, we don't have any space to change that. But we do have a chance to influence what's next. So in that way, if you think about it, there's a lot to get your mindset and your approach up, because if you just sit in the other stuff, it's not going to get you any better, Scott. I just know that. And so everybody's frustrated, mad, disappointed, all those emotions. I hate that we're going through it, but it is important to learn how to navigate this. This is life as a professional ball player, and on and off the field, it'll set us up, because the young people that are going through that as players, you don't like it, but this is the adversity that sucks. And there's lessons that may be applied in 26 or 27 that's happening now that they can't even see that yet, man. But you just battle with it, Scott. And that's how we intend to do it. But what's next is, hey, how do we get better? What can we do? If I take that approach and they take that approach, then I think you got a chance to work yourself through it, which is important to learn how to navigate. Trust me, I don't want to learn how to lose. I want us to learn how to get ourselves through tough spots.
As the team enters the bye week, players, coaches, I mean, everybody needs a reset, right? You need a reset probably. So how do you take these next couple of days? How do you approach this? What do you need to do for yourself to kind of re-energize for this second half?
Yeah. First thing, I got to look at the big picture and make sure the messaging of how we, set the tone for what the next half will bring. That's really important, Scott. What do we want to emphasize? What things need to be changed from? What can we emphasize more at practice? Okay, we want more of the red zone or more of third down, and navigating that is important. The second half of the season, you got a chance to get better, man. And so that's what I want to see. There's a lot of players here on this team that I want to see do this, and we'll work really hard to do that.
Going to be interesting to see how the Commanders' defense does the rest of this season with Dan Quinn as defensive coordinator. Monday marked 1 week since Quinn demoted Joe Witt Jr. and took over as defensive coordinator. The defense in the loss to the Dolphins was better, but the opponent, of course, needs to be considered. The Dolphins' offense not nearly as good as the offenses that the Commanders faced over the previous 4 games: the Dallas Cowboys, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Seattle Seahawks, and the Detroit Lions. Joe Witt's tenure as Commanders' defensive coordinator ended with a vicious gauntlet of opposing defenses. The Dolphins were a nice first opponent for the Dan Quinn coordinated Commanders defense. That's undeniable. And yet still, the defense did have problems, but the defense also did some good things. We on Monday afternoon had this back and forth between David Aldridge of The Athletic and Dan Quinn.
Dan, how did you assess the defensive performance as a whole yesterday?
Well, I told them today, I liked the energy, especially down by the goal line. I really felt that's where I felt the hitting. That's where I felt some of the plays. To have a couple of stops, I was especially pleased. At defensive tackle, Kinlaw and Goldman had a couple of big stops on the drive in the fourth quarter. Then they were down there. And I also liked on the other side earlier a stop by Wagner and others. So that was part that I liked a lot. The fourth downs, to win those are big. We kind of talked in this game, we needed takeaways, and fourth downs were going to be a part of that. The third down I thought we improved on in some spaces. But having a few that were longer, that certainly felt good too, DA, that not all living in the lower spot. We got plenty of stuff to get better at. Disguises, creating takeaways, those things. But I like the energy and the speed. I thought the players, really were ready from an energy standpoint to tackle better, and that's what I was looking for.
Did it feel, maybe hard for you to assess because you were in the middle of it, but did it feel like you taking over maybe helped in that regard or had an impact in that regard?
No, I didn't think of it in that way. I did like the energy. I could feel it on the field with the players. So when you spend this much time with them, man, you want to be on the journey with them. So I was excited to see some of the plays that were made. I think it was Jacob Martin had an early one that was big. The knockdown by Bobby on the fourth down play, it was interesting. On that particular play, we actually ran that in practice on Friday. And it's a tough route to match up, and the offense completed it. And so you thought, okay, this guy sees it to go. So when you see that and you see a player make the correction, make the adjustment, it was one of those times that from a coaching standpoint, you're like, okay, man, do these guys, are they locked in? Because the same play happened in the game in that space. And so I thought for he and for Luvu, he had an important job on that play too. The wide receiver had an option route outside of him, and he had to stay really attached to him, which is tough, but that's how you have to play it. So those two backers, I thought, man, they were really on it, DA.
All right, Catering by Uptown. It provides catering to perfection. Whatever event you're planning, a wedding, a holiday party, whatever, visit cateringbyuptown.com. Mention that Al Galdi sent you, and see what Catering by Uptown can do for you. Catering by Uptown provides both great service and a great price. Catering by Uptown is a family business. It's run by the Pereiras, who are great Commanders fans and loyal supporters of this podcast. Catering by Uptown specializes in handling everything so that you don't have to. Catering by Uptown understands that special events deserve to be celebrated in style and thus takes care of every detail so that you can enjoy your event. Great service, amazing cuisine, and reliability are the foundation of what makes Catering by Uptown one of the most referred caterers throughout Maryland, Washington, D.C., and Northern Virginia. And know this, if you go to cateringbyuptown.com and click on venues, you can set up your own personal tour of one of Catering by Uptown's premier venues, including outstanding waterfront venues. Catering by Uptown offers the ability to coordinate services at over 100 of the best reception halls, vineyards, farms, historic homes, event venues, banquet facilities, and wedding venues in the area. Visit cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. That's cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. Well, we on Monday afternoon had the introductory press conference for the Washington Nationals' new manager, Blake Butera. The Nats on October 31st, Halloween, announced the hiring of Butera as manager, but his introductory press conference did not happen until Monday, which was November 17th. Why the delay? Well, two reasons. A, Butera and his wife on October 30th welcomed their first child. B, the 2025 MLB General Managers meetings took place in Las Vegas last week, and Nats president of baseball operations, Paul Taboni, was at the GM meetings. And so we on Monday afternoon had this intro presser for Blake Butera, who is just 33 years old. He was born on August 7th, 1992. He is the youngest manager in MLB since Frank Quillisi for the Minnesota Twins in 1972. Butera had been with the Tampa Bay Rays organization as either a player, a coach, or an executive since June 2015. He had been the Rays senior director of player development since October 2023. His background is player development, and he comes from one of the smartest, most analytically inclined, most forward-thinking organizations in sports, the Rays. I am a fan of the Nats hiring Blake Butera as manager. It is a bold hire. It is a hire that has big-time upside. But Blake Butera has never played or coached above the single A level of professional baseball. And he's just 33, and he looks like he's 23. He looks really young. This was Blake Butera on Monday afternoon on being so young.
Yeah, I think the best advice I've gotten is just to be yourself, right? It's like at the end of the day, when you talk with players, when you work with players, I think the last thing they look at is how old or young somebody might be. I think what's most important to them is, do you care about them as a person first, and are you going to do everything you can to help them become the best version of themselves, both on and off the field? And I think people can accomplish that in different ages and different experiences, and I think that's most important, in my opinion.
And I think that Blake Butera is 100% right about that. Age can be so overrated when it comes to intellect and maturity and success. Plenty of young people succeed in all kinds of professions. And if we're just talking managing/coaching, how about Sean McVay? Sean McVay was just 30 years old when he, in January 2017, left his job as Washington Redskins offensive coordinator to become the head coach of the Los Angeles Rams. How has that worked out? How is McVay doing? McVay's age meant nothing. He clearly is wise and mature beyond his years. Maybe/hopefully the same is true for Blake Butera. Maybe the Nats and Blake Butera have MLB's version of Sean McVay. How great would that be? We on Monday afternoon had this exchange with Blake Butera.
Jake Mintz with Yahoo Sports. How's it going, Blake?
What's up, Jake?
I'm just piggybacking off of the question about your age. In what ways do you see that being a potential asset for you in a big league clubhouse, and what challenges might that present as you start this new opportunity?
Yeah, I think along the same lines, just like building relationships first, right? Where make sure you get to know each one of these players. I didn't play in the major leagues, but I was in their position not too long ago. So I think understanding that just the pressures that go into playing this sport and playing it at a high level, whether it's family, there's a lot of stuff off the field that players are going through that can add to the stress of succeeding and playing this game. And I think just understanding what they're going through and meeting them where they're at and making sure they know they have someone they can always go to is really important.
regarding Blake Butera having not played in MLB, that does contrast quite a bit with previous Nats managers. The Nats, in fact, have quite the history of managers in terms of who those guys were as players. Frank Robinson, Davey Johnson, Matt Williams, Dusty Baker, Davey Martinez, all of those guys had significant playing careers in MLB to varying degrees. Blake Butera has never played or coached above the single A level of professional baseball. Where I do think him being so young could be tricky is when having to have a difficult conversation with a player. There with age does come experience and gravitas. And so if a player has to be chewed out or put in his place or counseled in some way, will Blake Butera know the right way to go about doing that? We on Monday afternoon had this exchange with Blake Butera.
Hey, Blake, congratulations. My name is Eric Flack. I work with the local CBS here, Channel 9. One more on the age thing. I wonder, first and foremost, do you think about it as much as people like me do? And do you approach a conversation holding somebody accountable, not playing the game that you want it to be played, with somebody who is 3 years your senior as opposed to 3 years your junior?
Yeah, to your point about the tough conversations, I think looking at it from that lens, you create the relationship first. And I know I've said that a few times, but it's really important to me to create the relationship, create the trust, so where player, regardless of age, experience, understands where you're coming from with a certain message. And I think, one thing for me as well is I've tried to put myself in positions and situations where I've coached or worked with players that were, future Hall of Famers or players that had played one day professionally, right? And I think some experiences in winter ball and then also the World Baseball Classic with players like Vinny Pasquantino and Matt Harvey, and then, working alongside Mike Piazza, like gaining their respect was really important to me. So I think looking back at that, it's, you create the relationships first and make sure they understand you care about them and are going to do whatever you can to help them succeed.
And one way in which the Nats' new baseball operations regime led by Paul Taboni and Blake Butera are looking to help players succeed is via analytics, an area in which the Nats have been woefully behind for years. We on Monday afternoon had this exchange between Nats insider Spencer Nussbaum of the Washington Post and Blake Butera.
In Paul's introductory presser, he had mentioned melding the art of coaching with data and analytics. What is the role of data in a Blake Butera managed club?
Fully believe and buy into data and information and analytics. It's a huge part of our decision-making process, right? Like there's a really good group here in place that's going to help us come up with processes in terms of what we're going to do leading into games, and then also building a staff around us that's going to do a good job of making sure we're all on the same page and prepared each night to help kind of carry those things out.
Well, you know that I love that answer from Blake Butera right there. Quote, fully believe and buy into data and information and analytics, end quote. Preach, my brother. That was music to my ears. That was a Beethoven symphony to my ears. Really good to hear that. Looking forward to the Nats implementing that. It's long overdue. Blake Butera's coaching staff still is being put together. We know of two hires, bench coach Michael Johns and pitching coach Simon Matthews. The Nats on November 10th announced the hiring of Michael Johns as the team's bench coach. He's 50, had spent the last two seasons as the first base coach for the Tampa Bay Rays, who for the 2025 regular season were number 8 in MLB in StatCast's base running runs above average, a metric designed to express the overall value of base running measured in runs created or lost via stealing bases and taking extra bases. The Nats in recent seasons, as you may have noticed, have made a lot of outs on the base paths. Way too many. Hopefully Michael Johns can help in this department. And the Nats on November 11th announced the hiring of Simon Matthews as the team's pitching coach. He's just 30. He joined the Nats off spending 5 seasons with the Cincinnati Reds organization, including as their assistant pitching coach for the 2025 season. Matthews graduated from Georgetown University in 2017. He pitched for the Hoyas for the 2015 through 2017 seasons, off having transferred from Temple University following the 2014 season. But perhaps most notable about Matthews, his sports science background. He, prior to joining the Reds organization in 2021, was the director of pitching at Push Performance in Tempe, Arizona. Arizona and was an online trainer for Driveline Baseball. He and those jobs, per the press release from the Nats, quote, designed throwing programs for pitchers with an emphasis on improving movement patterns and velocity and promoted arm health, end quote. We on Monday afternoon had this exchange between my co-host on the Nats Chat podcast, Nats insider Mark Zuckerman of MASNsports.com, and Blake Butera.
I know we have two names that are out there already, and I know you're working to hire more. For you, what's the balance between wanting to bring in experience that you don't have personally versus finding others who might have the same kind of youthful and minor league experience and teaching kind of experience?
Yeah, I don't think we really set out to either hire for or not for experience. I think what was first and foremost was we wanted to make sure we brought in people that align with our values. We wanted people that would help hold each other accountable, would come in with a tremendous amount of a work ethic, and make sure they were in this thing for the right reasons. At the end of the day, our job is to help these players get better and create something that's sustainable for a really long time and successful. Regardless of age, I think that was most important to me when we were building out a staff, is to make sure there's people in here that are going to help our players reach their ultimate potential.
And regarding Blake Butera's coaching staff, some news from Paul Taboni during his post-press conference session with reporters. Sean Doolittle is staying. That's good news. The Nats in January 2024 announced the hiring of Doolittle as pitching strategist. His title under Paul Taboni and Blake Butera is to be determined, but Doolittle is very well regarded, as is Blake Butera. Here was Butera during the opening statement of his press conference.
As we move forward, our identity is going to start with character. I believe true leadership is built on real relationships. Relationships that create unity, clarity, and a shared purpose. And all that begins with accountability. For myself, for our staff, for every player that wears this Nationals jersey, we're going to hold each other to a standard every single day. We're going to be committed to our process and a daily standard of performance. That means focusing on improvement and excellence one day at a time, trusting that consistency is going to help us build something sustainable, not just for 1 year, but for several years ahead. We're going to be committed to our process. On the field, you can expect a team that plays with intent. We're going to be fundamentally strong. We're going to do things the right way. We're going to play the game the right way and handle all the small details. We want our fans to feel connected to the way we play and to take pride in the identity that we show every night. DC is an incredible sports city. It's passionate, it's knowledgeable, and they're hungry for a winner. We're in this together, and our commitment as a staff is to represent this city with pride. We want to play a brand of baseball that reflects the toughness, competitiveness, and the spirit of the people who support us. We're currently building an elite coaching staff. In my opinion, the best coaches are teachers, mentors, and leaders that are able to get the most out of every single player in this organization. We want to create an environment where every player feels challenged yet supported, and that's what we're building right now. I'm so excited to get to work. The group of players in this clubhouse are special. I've had the chance to get to know a lot of them over the past few weeks, and I've been blown away by their character and their hunger to be great. I can't wait for our fans to see how special this team's going to be, and we're going to do everything we can to make them proud.
Well, Nats fans have not had much to be proud of for a while now, but I am encouraged in what the Nats have in Paul Taboni and Blake Butera. The Washington Capitals in the NHL's 2025-2026 regular season are having a hard time scoring goals, but the team is doing a great job of not giving up goals. The Caps improved to 9-8-2 with a 2-1 win over the Los Angeles Kings at Capital One Arena on Monday night. The Caps have allowed 1 goal or less in 8 of 19 games in this regular season. Outstanding. A really good game for the Caps' number 2 goaltender, Charlie Lindgren. He was their starting goaltender for this game. He stopped 30 of the 31 shots on goal that he faced, including all 11 of the shots on goal that he faced in the third period. Lindgren has not had a good season so far, but he on Monday night did very well. Helping him was that the Caps had 21 block shots, matching a single game high for the Caps in this regular season. The Caps won despite losing the puck possession battle. They had 25 shots on goal to the Kings' 31, and per natural stat trick had 48 5-on-5 shot attempts to the Kings' 52. though the Caps per natural stat trick had 14 5-on-5 high-danger shot attempts to the Kings' 10. Also, the Caps won despite, again, struggling on special teams. The Caps went just 2 for 3 on the penalty kill and 0 for 2 on the power play. But scoring a goal for the Caps was top-line left wing Alex Ovechkin. He scored an even-strength goal, 151 into the second period for his 6th goal in this regular season and for the 903rd regular season goal in his NHL career, most in NHL history. And the goal was his 442nd regular season goal at Capital One Arena, surpassing Gordie Howe for the most regular season goals at a single venue in NHL history. Ovi scored on a snapshot from the low slot off a great pass by top-line right wing Connor McMichael from behind the net. Here was the call by John Walton on the Washington Capitals radio network.
With a puck left side here, Moverare from the point. Runs into Ovechkin, and a puck bounces out now to center. Ovechkin keeping into the zone, kicks it back to McMichael, top of the right circle, and moves in toward the slot. Chychrun trying to get the puck in toward Dylan Strome. He was camped out of the top of the goal crease, deflected down, and now they score! It's Ovechkin on a pass that came from in behind the net. The Great Eight bangs it home. It's his 903rd career goal. It's 2-0 Washington.
All right. Now, Alex Ovechkin on Monday night actually did not have, shall we say, his best game. The goal was his only shot on goal for the game. He finished with 5 total shot attempts, but he committed a game-worst 4 giveaways, and he was next to last on the Caps in 5-on-5 shot attempt percentage for the game per natural stat trick at 25.93. The Caps, with Ovechkin on the ice in 5-on-5 situations in the game, had just 7 shot attempts versus allowing 20 shot attempts. But Ovi scored the goal, now has 4 goals and 4 assists over the Caps' last 7 games. The Caps' other goal came from defenseman Matt Roy. He scored an even-strength goal, 3:41 into the first period for his first goal in this regular season. Speaking of Caps defenseman John Carlson on Monday night returned from a 1-game absence caused by an upper body injury. He played in his 1,106th regular season game with the Caps, moving him past center Nicklas Backstrom for the second most regular season games played in franchise history. Your top 5 players in Caps history in regular season games played: number 1, winger Alex Ovechkin; number 2, defenseman John Carlson; number 3, center Nicklas Backstrom; number 4, defenseman Calle Johansson; and number 5, winger Peter Bondra. The Caps' healthy scratches for Monday night were winger Sonny Milano and defenseman Declan Chisholm and Dylan McElrath. And this was a milestone win for Spencer Carberry, the 100th regular season win for him as Caps head coach. His post-game press conference on Monday night began with these exchanges with Caps insider Mike Vogel of WashingtonCaps.com.
Well, I got to lead. How does it feel to have triple-digit wins in the National Hockey League?
Yeah, God's honest truth, I did not know that. So, yeah, pretty humbling to be able to coach in the National Hockey League and coach this great organization. My family and I, to think about the guys brought it up, and it 2 years and 19 games. It's flown by, but we've had the time of our lives, and just count my lucky stars every day.
And a pretty big win, too, for Chucky, for the team. A win where you get a lead, build on it, and relinquish it. How good does it feel?
Yeah, we needed, you can tell, we're looking for good things to happen, not only as a team, but individually. So when you're searching for that, anything positive, winning a game like this, it just builds. It builds momentum for us. It builds confidence, and that's really, really important. You could tell it wasn't pretty in the second half of that game. We had to fight and scratch and claw and grind that out, and probably did some things that were uncharacteristic of what we would like it to look like. But that's what happens when you're sort of trying to find how we're going to close out games, and you're a little bit amped up because you haven't been in that spot a ton recently. And so glad to see the guys fight and earn that 2 points tonight. And Chucky, I think that's a big thing. Those guys love him, and they just care so much about Chucky, and they, as hard as it is for Chucky when he's in games and we're not playing well in front of him and they're ending up in the back of the net, that the guys feel that too, and they take that to heart. And so to be able to play in front of him and like I look at those shot blocks late in the game, like Brandon Duhaime's stick's broken, he's eats 2 pucks, Justin sort of laying out on the line to try to do everything they could to keep pucks away from Chucky late in the game to keep that or seal that win.
Yeah, nice to see Charlie Lindgren have an impressive game. Next up for the Caps are games on back-to-back nights, home to the Edmonton Oilers Wednesday night at 7 and at the Montreal Canadiens Thursday night at 7. And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Wednesday show, episode 1202, will include a lot for you on the Washington Commanders as we're now in the midst of their bye week. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, and I'll talk to you on Wednesday.
Growth and development,